Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I screwed it up. I said it the wrong way. With Jackson and Kyle, I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man whose team lost to Tommy DeVito. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. The podcast changed to Kyle and Jackson after that perfect picks week this week. So
Yeah,
almost
incredible.
perfect. We got to wait on Monday night, but doing pretty good this week and just extending out that lead a little bit.
Yeah, you had one of the all-time weeks. I know this is what everyone is here to talk about, is us on our Pick'em show, the scoring system that only you and I
That's
care
what
about.
I'm here for.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I hit my lock and still ended up adding 3 points to my total because I didn't have a very good week. You are perfect, right? You didn't have a single miss, or did you have one miss?
Haven't had a miss yet. Waiting to see what happens Monday night. Could be a perfect week for me here. The boys are buzzing. Let's do it.
Boys, and it all started because of the you nearly missed your lock, but Zay Flowers with a 3.5 point spread saving touchdown. Should have just gone down. Game was over. Zay, way to be selfish.
He had some touchdown celebrations lined up today. He had to get them all out, and not to mention, it wasn't just touchdown celebrations. It was touchdown celebrations against the team that passed on him to draft Quentin Johnson. That's ironic. Quentin Johnson finished this game with 1 catch for 7 yards.
Oh, good game for him.
Yeah, while Zay Flowers had 5 catches, 25 yards, and a touchdown. Also had that 37-yard rushing score. And he was electric in this game. He also could have had another big play. I thought he had a chance at that ball. It was a tough play. This was just – I did not even think the Ravens played well in this game. I didn't think they were coached very well. I thought there was some questionable decision-making from Harbaugh on this one, especially when it came to the challenge uses. And I didn't think they particularly played well, but they forced a bunch of turnovers. Their defense is probably as good as it's been since like the 2000 Ravens season. And here they are. They're rolling, and they're the 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, their defense played great in this one, and the defense continues to be amazing. 4 turnovers and completely, more or less shut down the Chargers offense. That is still a good offense. Say what you want about them. You're right. The offense, I kind of felt the offense played pretty well. Like I didn't on a play for play basis, they looked pretty good. It was just like they didn't, the scoreboard is the scoreboard. Your goal is to score points. Weren't able to it was just one of those games where it was 13-3. And it felt like this was a completely, the Ravens were going to win. And all of a sudden the Chargers got a touchdown. It's like, oh, I guess they could win this game. For the entire time, I thought the Ravens were going to win.
Yeah, I did too. I thought they felt pretty comfortable in it. But then obviously, they give the ball back after that missed field goal. Chargers have a chance to take the lead, but we know it's the Chargers, so that's not happening. I thought the one thing the Chargers
Herbert's not a winner.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the one thing the Chargers did really well in this game was – it was almost like an NBA defense like strategy where we're not going to let Lamar get his points. We're going to let all of his teammates cook. That was kind of the strategy. And everybody else on the Ravens offense seemed like they did pretty well, particularly in the running game. But they did a really good job of containing Lamar Jackson as far as running plays goes. He was not successful on the ground in this game, I thought. And then limiting kind of the downfield passing plays. There was a lot of checkdowns in this game, I thought, from both quarterbacks, but especially the Lamar side. They try to generate a lot of those big plays off of their play action with the threat of Lamar's legs, and those just weren't there. They did a really good job of containing him in the pocket and forcing him to throw the ball underneath. And, he made the throws when he had to, but, the emphasis was Lamar Jackson was not going to beat them in this game, and they did a good job of it.
I don't know. I mean, they kept him in it. You have to give them credit for that. But I kind of felt like it was more of the Ravens beating themselves at times, or not being able to make plays happen. I think that I think the Ravens are, my bigger takeaway on that side of the ball was the Ravens had real opportunities to kind of slam the door shut and just missed them.
Yeah. First game without Mark Andrews too. So maybe that plays a part because he's a big, he's the security blanket of this offense. He's the safest bet. And I thought, Isaiah Likely had some really nice plays in this game. I think he was the leading receiver in this one.
Yeah, with 40 yards.
Yeah. And he shows his incredible athleticism, it seems like all the time. But, it's a huge difference not having Andrews out there and what he can do.
Yeah, Ravens currently best record in the AFC. A little bit misleading because there's every division leader has 3 losses, but they played an extra game, so they're 9-3 instead of 8-3, heading into a bye this last week. So good time for a bye for the Ravens. Ravens are a good team.
Very good team. This defense can beat anybody. I mean, this defense can legitimately beat everybody. I mean, like, we're doing the whole Myles Garrett, TJ Watt thing for Defensive Player of the Year, and it's justified. Both of those guys are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This may come off hot takey. Does Kyle Hamilton deserve discussion?
Interesting.
Should he get a shout?
Sure. If you're talking about MVP and you're giving the other guys credit, I don't hate. We'll just say Defensive Player of the Year. I don't hate them. Let's throw them in conversation. Let's make a list of. I think if I had a vote on Defensive Player of the Year, I would come up with probably 10 to 12 guys that I'm like, I have to consider them. I have to look. I think he would be one of those guys.
Yeah, he would definitely be on my list of names to bring up. And I mean, he is about as impactful, it seems like, in the pass defense as those guys are in their pass rushing game. It's incredible. It seems like he's involved in every play, and this guy, they highlighted it on one of the play. He's covering Guyton for 40 yards as a 6'4" safety. He can, hit guys that coming up in the run game. I mean, this guy does literally everything on a football field at a high level. And he's just this freakish talent, this freakish athlete. I think he definitely deserves to be in the conversation. He's as impressive as any defender I've seen this season. Oh, did we lose Jackson there or did we lose me?
Oh, I'm back. All right. We're here. Okay, so what happened there?
I don't know. Mine like refreshed after something happened and then booted me out, and I had to re-enter. So
Gotcha. So well, that's unfortunate. Yeah. So thanks for everyone in the chat who somehow we gained viewers during that. So I don't know what that means, but yeah. So my internet I went down for for a minute. I don't know why. So sorry about that to everyone. I guess God's done with us talking about the Chargers.
I just assumed your internet really didn't like Kyle Hamilton as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. That was too hot of a take to handle.
Yeah, might have been it. I think it was too hot. My internet cables overheated. Took a minute to get it back.
That was pretty good. Well, glad to have you back. Anything else you want to touch on that? I mean, I did this whole thing about Kyle Hamilton's as impactful as any defender, it feels like, game to game. Anything else you want to add about him or the Ravens defense?
I was just going to also say Geno Stone. Shout out to him. He's been amazing as well. A couple good safeties there. Because of course, Ravens, what they do with corners, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Or defensive backs. I mean.
Yep, they're one of the best in the league at it and continue to be. So just an incredible run here. And this seems fun to watch. I'm excited to see him come playoff time.
Yeah. Let's move on. We've seen some Team Black Screen in the chat. So yeah, good stuff there. Let's move on. Let's go to Bills Eagles, the game of the week, in my opinion. This was an incredible game. I mean, it was electric. Mm-hmm. There was stakes here. The Bills trying to get back in it. I mean, wire to wire, fantastic. And the Bills looked like they were going to pull off this comeback. They things go, I don't want to say horribly wrong, but the Eagles woke up. There was a Josh Allen turnover, so now 8 straight games with an interception, which is kind of a hilarious stat. The Eagles look like they're in good field goal range, but then Jason Kelce just can't stop false starting, multiple false starts. Like, you're the center, you're the guy with the ball. Why are you false starting? You should be okay. Multiple false starts pushed them to a 59-yard field goal in the pouring rain. One of the more clutch kicks you're ever going to see to tie the game. And force overtime. Then the Bills had a chance to win it in overtime, but a miscommunication as Gabe Davis was wide open in the end zone, but he cut one way, Allen threw it the other way, ends up falling incomplete. And then the Eagles are able to, there was even like what looked like a fumble with A.J. Brown in overtime. Thought the Bills were going to win, but no, not a fumble. Eagles 10-1, incredible game.
Incredible game indeed, and it started a little slow and then kind of just went chaotic towards the end. And I mean, it was awesome on both sides. Some high-level quarterback play, some high-level offensive play. Defensive play wasn't so great, but that's a different story. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, and man, it's just another back-breaking Bills game where, I mean, how many of these losses have they had this season where it feels like they should have won? All of them? Like, yeah. I think all of their losses are 6-point or less this season, and it feels like they had an argument to win every single one, maybe besides the Bengals game. And yeah, I mean, this team, like, can we just agree? This is one of the best teams in football, and they might not make the playoffs. Like, this is a real thing now. Like, we've been talking about this. It's been, talked about ad nauseum between us two. Like, they have 5 games left, and they probably have to win 4 or 5. Like, they have to go 10-7, you would assume, to make the playoffs. And that those games include the Chiefs, Cowboys, and Dolphins. They should beat the Chargers and Patriots, but Justin Herbert, what we saw against this defense, Justin Herbert can go off against this defense too. So they have to win 4 out of those 5, and 3 of them are against 3 of the best teams in football. So, I mean, this is a legitimately great football team that might miss the postseason.
Kyle, you gave a hot take of Kyle Hamilton. I'm going to give you a hotter take. People are going to dislike this take, but I think it's true. I kind of think maybe Josh Allen should win MVP this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's been awesome. Like I think this might be his best season of his career. I was telling somebody this earlier. I had to verify the stat with you because I remember when he took over the lead in interceptions, like he was like 3rd in turnover worthy play rate, and he's like 8th. So like the interceptions are high, sure, but it's not all his fault. And obviously that's the whole point of turnover worthy plays. This goes back to kind of what I said in the offseason about this team. Nobody has a singular higher burden. If there were a usage rate for NFL teams, he would be number 1 in usage rate in the league, probably by far. Like, the amount they ask him to do for this team is just unbelievable. Like they ask him to do everything. He's their best running back and quarterback by a significant margin. And probably, it's impossible. It's an impossible task for him to win a lot of these games. And he still manages to put him in a position to win it. He was awesome in this game again, and they lose. They lose a game that he played legitimately awesome in. And it keeps happening.
Yeah, I mean, he ends up with 51 passes and 9 carries. So 60 plays for Josh Allen in this one. You have quarterbacks who are getting a third of that in a game sometimes. And you have quarterbacks who don't even get that many snaps in a game, obviously overtime. So, had an extra drive in there. But I mean, advanced stats love Josh Allen. I think, box score stats are the reason why they don't love him is mostly just these turnovers, which even with the 13 turnovers, which is highly misleading, his passer rating is 95.8. Like even with that, given in a bad situation he's been in, it's still pretty good. Like I think he's been great this season, and it's I think we have to talk about the flip side. I kind of think you got to fire Sean McDermott if you don't make the playoffs this year.
Well, I was going to bring this up to you too. I think I agree, and I think it's unfair probably, and I'm trying to even think of like an example to it. I mean, it's like I don't know when Terry Stotts was fired by the Trailblazers. I mean, that reference is going to go over a lot of people's heads. Like, I don't know. Like, how many times can you keep doing the same thing and not seeing the results you want, which is maybe unrealistic expectation to say we want to win a Super Bowl all the time, right? Like, this team probably isn't. I don't know. Like, you probably have to change something at this point. And unfortunately for McDermott, it probably is going to be him. And I don't think it's all been his fault. Obviously, the defensive injuries have been brutal this year, but they've been asking for a secondary option at receiver that they haven't really had. The running game hasn't really turned out the way they wanted to, and it's basically Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs or bust. It seems like most games, and this game it was Josh Allen was awesome, and it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, I think that I agree. Compare something I thought of a different basketball would be when the Toronto Raptors when they fired their head coach after getting the 1 seed. It's like at a certain the Bills haven't been terrible, but I feel like every year we're talking about them as like, yeah, their record isn't great, but like a lot of advanced stats love them. It's like at a certain point you have to say, well, why isn't the record great? Like last year the record was great, but I feel like a lot of these years they've been like 10-7. But like the analytic darlings or like the team to watch out for, at a certain point you have to just say like this isn't working. But I mean, the Eagles are the best team in football record wise, and they had them on the ropes. At the same time, it's like, is it possible for them to go on a run, go 2-1 against the Chiefs, Cowboys, and Dolphins, and then beat the Chargers and Patriots? No, that's not out of the question at all. So there is hope, but they need to stop with these moral victories.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to hit a breaking point with this because, I mean, I agree. This team, it wouldn't shock me if they beat the Chiefs, Cowboys, and Dolphins to end the season.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it also wouldn't shock me if they lost to the Chargers and Patriots to end the year, too. And that's kind of the problem with the Bills right now.
Uh-huh. We have Overlap 618 in the chat. This is Overlap. After the Bills lost, it is time for me to call 1,800 bets off. Or 1-800 I see. Sorry, give me a second. Call 1-800 bets off. That was a brutal loss for my net worth. That is all. I'm sorry, Overlap. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I don't know how you bet the Bills, honestly, after what you've been seeing the past few weeks, but brutal for you, man. Good to see you here.
Almost worked. You were riding high for a while. The Eagles played in this game. The Eagles 10-1, big gutsy win for them as they're finding ways to win. For a while, it was kind of like, hey, maybe just throw the ball down the field. Can you get this passing game going? They were able to really, eventually, after only scoring 7 points in the first half, they get 24 in the second half and the touchdown drive in overtime. So, incredible stuff here by the Eagles, continuing to find ways to win 10-1. The Eagles in a great spot to get the 1 seed.
Definitely in a great spot. They're probably going to get the 1 seed. They got a 2-game gap on Dallas in San Francisco. So everything's looking good there. I mean, the crazy thing about this Eagles team thing is that it doesn't feel like they're playing. I don't think it still feels like there's so much until they reach their ceiling.
Uh-huh.
Like, I still haven't felt like they've played a complete 4 quarters of like great football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just haven't. Like, even in this game, like, didn't Jalen Hurts start like 3 of 10 in this game? I mean, he was awesome down the stretch and really took this game over in a huge way. And that's kind of this is the highlight reel you show during Jalen Hurts MVP ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it feels like every week it's like there's moments of real greatness with this team and they're pulling off these wins, and then there are moments of like, what the heck is going on here? And then it's just hilarious that their one loss all season is to the Jets. Like,
Yeah.
so all of this goes on, and it still feels like we still are waiting for so much more out of this team, but they're still winning all these games. So we give them all the credit, and they are still, I think, the most talented rosters. So they're winning all these games for a reason.
Yeah, I think they'll miss Lane Johnson. I don't think it's like a guarantee that they're going to make it out of the NFC, but they're in a good spot. And their seasons, these next 2 weeks are so huge for Philadelphia. They play San Francisco and then they play Dallas. I mean, if they can get out of there and win both of those 2 games, it's over. They're the 1 seed.
You're not worried about the Giants to end the season twice in 3 weeks?
Probably not. I think they'll be able to at least beat Tommy DeVito once. I know not everyone can do that, but I think they'll be able to.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance of that happening too.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. A lot of interesting games we can talk about here, but you know what? I brought it up. It's funny. Let's talk about it. The Patriots and Giants.
Why is this brought up? Why this shouldn't be the 3rd game brought up this week? That's all I gotta say. All right, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about this one, which was just hilarious, Kyle. I mean, I know that it wasn't hilarious for you, but both of Mac Jones' interceptions were just fantastic. Bailey Zappi comes in, he throws an interception as well, so maybe he's not the guy either. Somehow Tommy DeVito looks like a great quarterback compared to what the New England was throwing out there. I'll let you take it away. The Patriots found a way to lose here.
Yeah, certainly found a way to lose. Tommy DeVito's QBR was 7.4, and he was significantly the best quarterback in the NFL in the game. Like, Bailey Zappi put together one really nice drive to start the second half. That was New England's only scoring drive. And then this was basically crap from here on out. This was just brutal football. And Jonathan Vilma, I think, was the one calling the game, trying really hard to praise these 2 defenses, saying they're doing a lot of good stuff. And it's just like, you're not tricking anyone with what this game is. We all know what we're watching. We all know what we've sadly signed up for. And yeah, this was brutal to watch. It wasn't fun. And, Bill Belichick coached like a coward again, as he has for the last 4 seasons. And maybe he doesn't trust his quarterback. He doesn't trust the quarterback situation. So I get it. But, what is the point of playing for ties? What is the point of playing for overtime? So the Patriots here go all the way down the field. They get the ball back with the punt. And they get down to, I'm pulling up the drive chart here. They had 1st and 10 at the Giants 39. And then from there, they go short pass to Tyquan Thornton for 4 yards. Ramondre Stevenson run for a 1st yard. They had the ball with under, a minute 40 left, basically, at the Giants 22, and went run, incomplete pass, and then run to the right side to kick a field goal. Like, that's just some of the most cowardly. And then they missed the 35-yard field goal because it was pouring rain, and their kicker's not very good either. Oh, we lost Jackson again. And it's just like, why? I understand your quarterback situation is not ideal. I understand you don't trust either of these quarterbacks. I get all of that. But why would you put yourself in a situation to not try and win a game from 20 yards out with a minute and a half to go and all of your timeouts too? It's a mind-bogglingly bad decision. And, I think it's the kind of decision that's going to have him coaching another team next year, whether it's mutually agreeing to part ways or they end up trading him. I think it's probably time. This is going to be something that's pointed to for why he's not the coach next season of the Patriots. So, it's sad that this is the way that this is going to end, but it seems like this is the way it's going to end at this point. It's time to move on and try something new. And that's basically the end of this Patriots tenure. So, that's all that was. Obviously the losses sting a little bit less now because the draft positioning and, with this loss, the Patriots are basically, they're 2 games separated basically between the Giants and Bears for a top 4 pick. And I think the Titans are 3 wins. No, the Titans got their 4th win. So it's the Bears with 3 wins, and then it's the Cardinals and Patriots with 2 wins, and then the Panthers with 1 win. So they're probably going to end up with a top 4 pick this year. So this was obviously a big loss for that regard. So feel good about that. We'll take that. And Jackson's back with his internet, and I think I did a good enough job killing time there.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this internet. It's really frustrating. I apologize to everybody. Thanks for hanging with us. I don't know. I moved in, and I feel the internet's just been weird at times. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, I'm sure you had a lot of fun talking about this one.
No, I did not. This was disgusting. So,
okay. Well,
did you watch this game? Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No. I saw what was shown on Red Zone and laughed a lot. Yeah,
it was poor. The best part about this game was, what was the best part about this game? Young players, really. There's a couple young players on both of these teams to get really excited about. Obviously, we know Kayvon Thibodeau's a stud. Mm-hmm. He had some big plays in this game. Christian Barmore had a couple big plays in this game, and he's really just made the leap this year, it feels like, to a really potentially dominant interior defensive lineman going forward. So that was fun to watch too. So those 2 guys, and then the rookie receivers, Jalen Hyatt with a couple big plays in this game, Demario Douglas up until the point he got clothesline and no flag was thrown, had a really nice day. So I mean, those 2 guys too, they look like, at least both of these teams look like they have a few players that are going to stick around. Like, it's not completely destroyed, but outside of those guys, not a lot to watch.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough situation here for the I don't know. Kyle, I gotta be honest. Every team has some good young players. This is a tough situation for the Patriots.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying in the chat, like, obviously I still want to win games because I'm a sicko, but like, this basically guaranteed us a top 4 pick.
Yeah,
barring something crazy.
That's who you get excited about is Drake May.
Yeah, I still like Caleb. I was thinking about it today because I'd still like Caleb Williams,
but you're picking second right now. That's why I said that.
Yeah, no, we're technically third. I think the Cardinals are second.
Oh, I thought it was. I'll double check, but I thought it was. I thought maybe the Cardinals hadn't lost yet. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. That's probably. I think it is the Cardinals second still, but yeah, I mean,
yeah, you're right.
I still think the Cardinals are going to win a few more games. Like, we'll talk about their game in a second. Like with Kyler, I think they get a 3rd win and maybe a 4th. Mm-hmm. The tough thing is that getting the Panthers to win twice might be a miracle at this point, or getting the Panthers to get 3 wins because I think we have the strength of schedule tiebreaker below them. Mm-hmm. Getting them to get to 3 wins feels like it'd be a miracle. So that's probably not happening.
Yeah, so the Cardinals have an extra loss. The Cardinals are 2-10. Patriots are 2-9. So, and you would have the strength of schedule tiebreaker in that scenario. So all you got to do is lose out, and you'll get the number 2 overall pick at worst here. Overlap 6-1-8. I'm getting sick and tired of Kyle complaining every week when the Patriots will back their way into another franchise quarterback. This is overlap. Yes, thank you, overlap. It could be worse actually. Let's move on, why don't we? Because this, due to the internet troubles, this show is going to end up going very long because we have 16 games to talk about as well. So let's keep moving here. Let's go to the game we should have talked about earlier, but I thought it'd be funny to talk about the Patriots. Jaguars, Texans. The Jaguars, huge win. To win by a foot. I mean, that game-tying field goal hits the crossbar and bounces out. Just couldn't quite get enough leg on it. As the Texans, it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for Texans to lead the division. Now Jacksonville has a 2-game lead in this spot and, have some really a tough game on the schedule. Other than that, could be smooth sailing here. I think this was, I think Houston winning didn't guarantee the division, but I think Jacksonville winning all but guarantees the division now and kind of shows that they are still a very good team, even with their flaws. And also Calvin Ridley, I feel like everyone kind of got onto, hey, Calvin Ridley not showing up. Right when we all said that, he's been great from that point forward.
Yeah, he has come alive. This Jaguars offense has come alive. Almost 10 yards per attempt in this game. And, yeah, I mean, I guess, starting with the result, let's start with the result. The Jaguars and Texans, I thought both played very good games offensively, and Stroud and Lawrence looked great. And eventually it was just the stars for Jacksonville and made some of the biggest plays in this game. Like you said, Ridley came alive. Christian Kirk had some nice catches. Trevor Lawrence, I thought, was awesome. And not only on offense, it was down the stretch. It was Josh Allen with, what was it, 12 pressures in this game, something like that, something absurd, and then 2.5 sacks, including 1.5 down the stretch, I think, on that last drive. So just an incredible finish from those guys. I mean, those guys really stepped up down the stretch and got the Jaguars this win. And like you said, 2-game gap and a commanding lead basically in this division now.
Yeah. Overlap in the chat is very concerned about you. Are you okay, Kyle? Why is Overlap concerned?
I don't know. I'm good.
Okay. Everything's okay, Overlap. Don't worry. Kyle's all right. Yeah. I had to say, this felt like 2 playoff teams. This was an awesome game. Both teams showed up to play in this one. Both young quarterbacks looked really good in this game. It was just like a fun game. And this is something that I do kind of feel like, hey, we could do 20 years of this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, it's just hard not to get excited about that. Obviously, the result is the result, but we're going to get maybe 10 years at least of these two guys playing each other twice a year. Like, this feels like it's like watching like a young Clayton Kershaw and young Madison Baumgartner situation, right? Like, these guys should be in our lives playing each other routinely for the foreseeable future. And they're both incredible. And they both were incredible again in this game. So this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I think universally, everybody wants the Texans in that 7 seed of those teams that are fighting for a playoff spot, right? Maybe Buffalo.
I think 7 seeds kind of undershooting it. In fact, I did my ESPN playoff machine. I had them as the 5 seed.
The 5 seed. Wow. Uh-huh. All right. Huh. So if we were going to do most fun teams for the playoffs, like, let's just get the most fun scenario. It's probably Texans, Bills. Chargers are out. Texans, Bills, and what? Broncos? Is it the Broncos or the Browns?
I think it's. What about the Colts? I think I'd take the Colts over either of those teams. Maybe Broncos. Maybe Broncos. You could talk me into Broncos. I think not Cleveland. Definitely not Cleveland.
Yeah. I'm good with the DTR PJ Walker duo, and we'll talk about that game in a second. But yeah, I think it's that would probably be the most fun outcome. But yeah, I mean, Texans, they still got a shot at this. They're fine. They're going to be in the playoff conversation. But they showed today that they're going to be competing for this division for the foreseeable future. This isn't Jacksonville's division now forever. And I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this run between these two teams.
Yeah, should be fun. Hopefully Texans can still get into the playoffs. Let's move on. Let's go to trying to figure out where we should go next. Not a lot of, wasn't the best week, admittedly. We can talk about my team, I suppose. We're talking about the AFC South. Let's talk about, I actually want to start off with the Colts before we kind of eulogize the Buccaneers here a little bit. In many ways, the Colts are kind of who the Buccaneers thought they would be going into the season, right? Like, they have Gardner Minshew, who is, this very fun quarterback who's playing good football. Jonathan Taylor was all the way back in this game. He had 6.1 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns, and that doesn't do it justice. He was even better than the stats would show. Really good, well-coached team, I thought, by the Colts. They went for it on a couple 4th downs. I'm not sure if every team would have gone for. Didn't get both of them, or actually ended up going for it on 4 total 4th downs, but 2 interesting ones, 2 key ones. Colts were clearly a better team here. The Colts, I'm buying into them. I talked about the playoff machine. I ended up having them as the 6th seed, in fact, in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it at this time. And, if Gardner is able to limit his mistakes, I know he did make a couple in this game, but overall, like, if he's able to limit his mistakes, like, Indianapolis has the players around him to win these games and continue to make the playoffs. I agree. So yeah, I mean, this was definitely a good game for them and a good win. And they came out fast in this game. They came out aggressive and outplayed Tampa. It felt like from the jump. So that opportunity, I think, is a big one for the Colts. And if they can kind of keep this momentum, yeah, I definitely think they can. I just, don't know how much I'm going to continue to trust Gardner Minshew throughout the season.
Yeah, I don't know what the ceiling is for this team, but I do think that it's at least playoffs. The Buccaneers are not a good football team. This was a disappointing loss. It kind of felt like I think we said like it's not technically a must win, but like if they lose this, they're pretty much the margin for error is over. And like the Buccaneers, we talk about because A, they're my favorite team, because B, they're in a terrible division, so they're still somehow only one game out, and C, they won a Super Bowl a couple years ago, so there still is kind of that, that thought process there. But I mean, they have as many wins as the Giants do, Like this is not a good football team. Like Dave, there's good parts of the team. Mike Evans is very good, but like this, it's kind of thing where it's like this offense for the first time was what Todd Bowles have been trying to do since he got here, right? Run the ball effectively and then sort of build off of that. And it still wasn't effective. And it's like, if this is finally what you wanted to have happen and you still can't get points on the board, like clearly it's one of the more baffling things I've ever seen, where you have this team that clearly the best part about this team is downfield passing. That's clearly what this team is built to do. And you've turned them into like a power running play defense team. It makes zero sense. While there's other issues at play, I don't know if Baker Mayfield's the guy. I kind of think like Baker Mayfield's been a godsend for paying a guy $4 million to come in and like a complete flyer, a guy no one wanted, and him to come in and play this well. That doesn't happen. Like that's a great scenario to happen. You're thrilled when something like that happens. And they're still 4-7. I can imagine how bad this would be if he was Carolina Baker Mayfield. I think if Mayfield wants to come back on a cheap deal, you take him. If not, you do have to start to look elsewhere. And they got to get rid of coaching staff. I mean, that's just it is what it is. It's a lost season, and somehow they're only a game out of the playoffs.
Yeah. And, I mean, honestly, if this team ends up with a top 10 pick, there's still going to be opportunities for, maybe a guy like Jaden Daniels or something like that and try something different that way with the quarterback. But, it's going to be interesting to see where this team goes forward from here, because there clearly needs to be some changes, but like it's not quite as close as like when Brady came, right? Whereas like it legitimately felt like Tampa just needed a guy who wasn't going to turn the ball over 42 times and they might be a Super Bowl contender. Like there's still a few pieces I think this team needs, but this team is pretty close to being pretty good again, it feels like. And it does feel like a couple tweaks here and there could get them back towards the top of this division. So, it's not crazy to say, even if they, bottom out here, that they could make a few changes. And, if a guy like Kirk Cousins is available, is that something you look at in the offseason? Something like that to say, let's get the quarterback in, let's get a new coach and, go for this thing for a couple more years, because you still have a lot of good players on this team.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know. There's worse. It's weird because they're kind of in that weird spot of like, they're not terrible, but is it almost better to be the Patriots right now, who can just suck and get the great quarterback, or is it better to be the Buccaneers, who have some pieces? Like, Kalijah Cansey's shown a lot of flashes as a rookie. Talk about young players and all that stuff. Devin White, I mean, you can't get juked out by Gardner Minshew at the goal line. Like I mean, you can't do it. Like that. That's the play that they're going to point to, and they're probably still going to pay him $20 million. We're going to be stuck with Devin White forever.
Just, such a frustrating run I feel like for him, because there were such high expectations, but and it looks so promising his rookie year too. So, once again though, it's crazy because the Buccaneers, like you said, they're still a game out of this thing. Like it's not inconceivable that they can make the playoffs, but they got to start winning some games. Obviously, is the big thing. But like, is 7 wins possible of winning this division at this point?
It's possible. The Saints and Falcons have really easy schedules, so I think that. I mean, if you did that for the Buccaneers, you'd have to beat the Falcons and Saints to make that happen. Like those would have to be 2 out of 3 more wins. I think you're probably going to need 8 to get in, which is possible. I mean, you play the Panthers twice, which is the nice thing. But then, you also have Jacksonville and Green Bay, who's no longer a slouch like we thought they might be, and then they play the Falcons and the Saints. So it's possible. It's just I don't have faith in this team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. I do, but it's it's hard to trust any of these teams. Like you did say it, the schedules are easy. They are forgiving schedules, but these also aren't guaranteed wins for these teams because of who they are. Like we've seen all these teams play, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why people love the schedule watchers will talk about that, but that's kind of the issue. And let's just kind of transition there and go with the Saints Falcons, which I mean, it felt like, okay, Saints, this was your opportunity. You win this game, you're up 2 games in the division. Like you're good. Like this is it. This is your division. We're not even thinking about it anymore. It's okay. Saints are going to beat a team that gets blown out by Dallas in the wild card round. But then they, and give credit to Atlanta. I mean, hey, who would have thought giving Bijan Robinson the ball a good chunk would be a good idea? And he still had, only 19 total plays, 16 carries, 3 receptions, but that's pretty good. I mean, they didn't actually run a lot of snaps, so he was definitely, had a lot of high percentage of their snaps in this game. I mean, this Saints offense, it's not one of those weird things where you look at the stat line and it's like, well, it wasn't terrible. Like Derek Carr had 300 yards on 38 attempts, like overall yards per play, 6.6. Like it wasn't the turnover battle was even in this game. Like it's the red zone thing. Obviously, that pick 6 was really probably the difference in this game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the difference in this game, but, I don't even need to see the numbers on it, but I am going to look it up. This is one of the worst red zone teams I've ever seen in my life. Like, this team is 29th in red zone, but the difference is, the bottom 3 teams are the Giants, Titans, and Jets. Those teams aren't good on any phase of the football field. Like, those are just bad offenses. And just above them is Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Las Vegas. Like those are all bad offenses. So of course, bad offenses are also going to be bad in the red zone. This is a good offense except for the 20-yard line. It's just one of the most baffling things. Like you can't 5 drives in the 20 inside the 20, then you get 5 field goals. Like what are we doing here? How do you not get 1 touchdown? This is just bad football. It's bad offensive football in the most important part of the game. So yeah, I mean, this is just unbelievably bad red zone efficiency, and it's going to cost them this season. I mean, they're 2 of 4 their last 6. Like this team's a complete mess.
Yeah, they're a mess. Atlanta, who everyone wants their coach fired, and yet I kind of think they're going to win the division. They're leading the division at this point. It might come down to Week 18. Falcons play the Saints. Hey, that'd be fun if they're both 7 and 8, or I guess 7 and 9 entering that game. Winner wins the division.
Yeah. Didn't we have that kind of last year with the Panthers and Buccaneers? I think it was 2 weeks before the end of the season.
It was it wasn't exactly winner wins, but it was like winner prop. I think Tampa Bay could have lost and still gotten in with like a win, and the Panthers lost the final game. But we did get with Jaguars Titans last year.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some fun incentives to it. Desmond Ridder just continues to be hilarious. Like he'll make 3 really awesome throws and combine it with like 3 really horrible throws. Like it just is who he is at this point. But yeah, I mean, they got their best players involved and did some good things, and 10 fourth quarter points, they won the game.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder is like in like certain like board games where it's like you get like this like +2. Desmond Ridder is Ryan Tannehill, but +2 turnover worthy plays a game.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's I think that's it. So good job for the Falcons. Hey, it's fun for them to at least see your star players getting some playing time, getting a win, all that good stuff. Let's move on. Let's go to, we have 4 games that did not happen Sunday. Let's do the first one I want to talk about here. Packers Lions, the shocker of the week, which I should have known. I should have looked at the moon cycle and all that stuff. That was on me. Should have paid more attention to that. But in all seriousness, Jordan Love's playing really good football. I thought he had his best game in the NFL, and I think I've said that a couple weeks in a row now. Christian Watson had, he looked back, which that's obviously very important. Lions defense might stink. That's definitely an aspect of this, and that's something to be concerned about. Rashawn Gary, 3 sacks on the day, and I'm talking about the playoff machine. I have Green Bay getting into the playoffs right now. Again, the playoff machine is a little bit weird, right? It's not a perfect indicator of who I actually think is going to make the playoffs, because if I think that you have a 51% chance of winning the next 5 games, then you win 5 in a row. But that doesn't necessarily think that doesn't necessarily mean that I think that's going to happen. But I kind of am buying into Green Bay into playoffs at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to believe it. Like, obviously the Chiefs is going to be a tough game next week, but after
Mhm.
that, Giants, Buccaneers, Panthers, Vikings, Bears. Like, is at Minnesota the only game they're not favored there to end the season besides the Chiefs?
I don't know if they would be underdogs. I mean, you're at Minnesota. I don't know if a month from now they're because I don't, what are we going to see out of Josh Dobbs at that point? It's looked good so far, but like
Right.
I think there's a world where they're favored in that game as well.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, they could easily go 5-1 down the stretch. And it feels crazy for what we saw earlier in the year to say this Packers team ends up 10-7, but things are looking a lot better. They still got diced a little bit in this game. Like this Detroit offense is still really, really good at times. Although there is going to be a conversation about the Jared Goff turnovers the last few weeks, but
Yeah.
at times this Lions offense is still the Lions offense, but the defense has made some plays too. And like you said, Gary continues to look like one of the better players in the league at the edge rusher position. They have all these guys, and it's starting to look like the Packers team that I was kind of interested in seeing this offseason. And it starts with that, some hard running and some decent receivers with Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. Like that's starting to form a little bit of a nice duo there between those two guys.
Yeah, I am a little bit worried about the Lions after this. I am after not just this week, but they probably should have lost to the Bears if they didn't have that great comeback. Give them credit for the comeback, but the 3 fumbles, that's not always going to happen. And like losing turnover battle 3-0, okay, those things kind of bounce certain ways. I'm not overly concerned there. But I mean, the defense hasn't looked great this season. It had moments and we were getting excited early on this season, but it hasn't looked great. Another kind of disappointing week. And, you know, uh, I do think that if you can get the Lions off their game, if you can get them out of rhythm offensively, you just see a much different team. They're not a team of, I mean, Jared Goff, listen, love him or hate him, he's not a playmaker, right? That's not his game. He is a guy who is a sort of, I would almost even argue an elite game manager. Like when things are going well, he's great at that stuff. But if you can get him off his game, he can struggle. And we have seen that this past couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And, you know, it's tough. It's tough because I do think he has put together a really good season. But yeah, I mean, there's just too many mistakes the last few weeks. And like you said, it's cost him in some of these spots. And it definitely cost him in this game. And then, there's definitely a reason to be concerned about the defense. Like, there's just no way around it. They lost CJ Gardner-Johnson. Emmanuel Mosley got hurt. And, those are two guys that they paid to kind of rely on this season, and they haven't been able to rely on them. And I feel like the defense is cratered the last few weeks without them. So, without those guys, with Goff struggling, it's been a little bit of a struggle. And yeah, I mean, clearly, I think at this point, I just have to take them off that tier. They're not Super Bowl tier, obviously, until they can prove it again, because we haven't seen it from this defense. They're not winning a Super Bowl with this defense. And I think they're more likely to be a first-round upset candidate than a Super Bowl contender with this defense.
Yeah, they feel very clearly like the fourth best team in the NFC.
Yeah, which is a huge step up for the Lions, but
yeah,
for some of the expectations we drew earlier in the season, not where they wanted to be.
Yeah, exactly. There was a point when they were considered, maybe the best team in the NFC, not looking like that now. Okay, well, I'll be honest, not a lot of great games left. Steelers-Bengals was interesting. For a while, it was looking like the Bengals might pull off the upset. And I was kind of thinking, like, could the Bengals make the playoffs? But no. Weird game where it's like, so the Steelers score 16 points against the Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals. I know he doesn't play defense, but obviously you get more possessions and, better field position and stuff like that with him not there. That being said, the offense looked much better in this game. I know that it was only 16 points, but a lot of people are attributing it to the Matt Canada thing. I don't know if that's the case or if it's just a coincidence. It might just be a coincidence. But, maybe some little things helped, and maybe just a confidence boost could be all you need here. Maybe it's sort of not necessarily I didn't see anything X's and O's wise that I didn't see with Matt Canada. To be honest, maybe Steelers fans who pay more attention to this stuff can say something, but I did see that they looked a lot better. And if you're a Steelers fan, who cares why it looks better? It looks better. That's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you could argue there's a few more chances to be willing to try and throw the ball downfield a little bit more, right? Like, there was a few explosive plays in this game, and I don't know exactly if it's because of what was being called or just because I don't know what it was. I agree, but it did seem like the offense looked a little more explosive, a little more dangerous in this game, and that's a huge step up for the Steelers. So, we talked about maybe they're not the most exciting team. If they could play offense like this and continue to have this defense, maybe they should be in the playoffs, and maybe we should give this team a little bit more respect. But we're gonna need to see it a little bit more than the one time, right?
Yeah. And if you look at the my playoff machine, which really, why are we even doing a podcast? I should just show you what I did on the playoff machine. I ended up with I have Denver as the 7th seed. I ended up with a 3-way tie for the 7th seed in both the NFC and AFC. Interestingly enough, I had Steelers tying with 10-7 and not making it because their schedule is they have 3 easy games. You play the Cardinals, the Patriots, and the Bengals. Those should be wins. But I also play the Colts, the Seahawks, and the Ravens. I kind of feel like those might be losses. And so I could see a 10-7 Steelers missing the playoffs. I could see them making it too. They're a complete bubble team for me right now.
Yeah. I think they beat the Colts, Seahawks, and Ravens and lose to the Cardinals, Patriots, and Bengals.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. I don't know. I have no idea what to make of the Steelers team. They're a weird team, and somehow just when you think like, oh, okay, they're just a bad team that finds ways to win, now they've become like a good team that's like winning like deservingly so, which somehow breaks my brain even more.
Yeah. I mean, it is a bizarre team. They are in the driver's seat though, and I do think that this defense is legit enough that they can still make the playoffs just fine. I definitely think there are some tough games there, but I think they can go and beat Indianapolis. I think they can go beat Seattle. So we'll see what happens down the stretch, though. Lot still to happen. What'd you think of Jake Browning? Like, obviously, the Bengals are going to try and keep this thing alive. Obviously, losing this game doesn't help for your playoff stakes. But I didn't think he was horrible in this game. I thought he was okay at times too.
Yeah, I thought they played well in this. I don't think the Bengals are doing much. I'm not expecting them to find a way, especially in the AFC, which is so difficult. I mean, they're going to make up multiple games. They probably have to win out, honestly, to make the playoffs at this point. I don't think they're doing that. But yeah, Browning had the interception. That wasn't ideal. Other than that, I did think he played. I was impressed with him. And, for a while, it was looking like, are they going to do something? But I think they needed to win this game to go on a run.
Yeah. Monday Night Football next week.
Well, yeah, man, that's who they're playing Monday night.
Jacksonville, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. On paper, it made sense. Just not working out that way. Let's move on. Why don't we? Unless you had more on Steelers Bengals.
No, I think we covered it. Steelers defense, man, continues to be nasty. It's a tough one to beat.
Yeah. Let's go Browns Broncos. Why don't we? The team with the longest win streak currently in the NFL. It's not the Chiefs. It's not the Ravens. It's not the Eagles. It's the Denver Broncos who beat the Cleveland Browns. Dorian Thompson-Robinson got hurt in this game, so that's not ideal. PJ Walker back in the mix. I mean, this is, I still think the Browns have some real issues, even with the quarterback situation. But in this, again, there's winnable games on the schedule. There really is. They play the Bengals, the Bears, and the Jets. I think they're another team that could end up 10-7 here. But Cleveland does not feel like a playoff team. I think Denver's kind of stole that playoff spot with this victory, in my opinion. I think that it was a big win for them. Again, it's weird where I feel like offense hasn't actually looked that great these past couple of weeks, but now the defense is massively stepping it up. And offense is still doing what it has to do. And Denver, 6-5. Who'd have thought?
Yeah. The Denver Broncos are back, fully back. Hottest team of football, like you said. Russell Wilson continues to have these 130-yard game manager games. It continues to work. I mean, look, I'm kind of just good with the Browns this season. Like, the injuries suck. Let's just punt on the season. We'll circle back next year. I don't want to watch too much more of this PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson thing. Right? Yeah. I'm just good. Myles Garrett can get a bunch of votes for Defensive Player of the Year. He might win the award, but that's the only thing that it feels like is really worth investing in towards the end of the season. So I'm good. And then Broncos, this team looks good. Like it looks like a legitimately good team. Like obviously the beginning of the season is going to hold this team back, and if they miss the playoffs, it's because they started 1-5. But this team looks like a team that can beat anybody. Like, it's another one of those teams where if you schedule predict, like obviously the Texans on the road is a tough one. I don't think the Chargers are a sure thing, and they play at Detroit. But at this point, like it's not crazy to say that this defense can beat almost anybody.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy how to, in hindsight, the people that were saying that the Broncos were better with Nathaniel Hackett than Sean Payton might not be correct.
Definitely not correct.
Yeah, I think maybe that they're happy with that. Yeah, I mean, I still don't know what the ceiling of this team is, but I think they're I think they're definitely going to be competing for a playoff spot. What a turnaround for them, and good for the Broncos fans, because that must have sucked. They got so excited with the Russell Wilson thing, and then everything going off the rails. I mean, I know they won a Super Bowl 8 years ago, but it's been a minute now.
Yeah, is Broncos country finally riding?
I think it's riding. Yeah, I think they're riding.
Plus, they had the whirlwind of emotion for the Colorado Buffalo season. Like, what a time for Colorado football. Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Incredible time. Wild stuff there. Let's move on. Let's go. Why don't we go Rams Cardinals? I know this was a blowout, but I'm interested in talking about the Rams. Cardinals, we know what they are. Kind of a little disappointing. Kyler Murray, the offense hasn't been quite great, but I still think I don't think he's the issue, right? I don't think he's the reason why this offense isn't rolling necessarily. But the Rams, Stafford has 4 touchdowns in this game. Kyren Williams, 143 yards rushing on 16 carries. He had 8.9 yards per carry in this game, and also had 61 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Kyle, Kyren Williams, is he an MVP candidate? This is incredible stuff by Los Angeles, and to keep bringing up that playoff machine, I had them tied for the 7 seed. They wouldn't get it with the tiebreaker, but I do think that there is still hope now all of a sudden.
Yeah, the offenses look better this week. I don't know. It feels like week to week we get different teams for all these teams, and Kyren Williams, like you said, he definitely won some people some fantasy weeks this week, probably. So yeah, I mean, it's just it's a really interesting team just because it's one of those teams you watch and you're like, who's that? Like,
oh yeah,
everybody on this team, it's like, who's that?
Who
are you? And it's like even the defense is so young. There's so many new faces in this team, and every week it seems like another person is stepping up and making some big plays and kind of flipping the game on its head, and that's how they're winning these games. And then Stafford's the no commodity of this group.
Aaron Donald, maybe the greatest game ever a player has had, where they registered 0 tackles.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like I feel like he's obviously not throwing his like best fastball anymore. He's still really, really good, but like he's not like peak Aaron Donald. But it's just like it's so funny to see him like just quietly just be like dominant still and just impact games. It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny how his regression is still like a top 7 defensive tackle in football. We have Scoot with a super chat. Hell yeah, baby. That's what I've been waiting for. Blowout win. Stafford looked elite. Kyren is a top 10 running back. Higbee learned he has hands. We are so back. You are so back. And this is just classic Stafford too, right? Like he just has games like this. Like he's, is he the most inconsistent quarterback in NFL history?
At times, it definitely feels like it.
And maybe the most inconsistent, I guess, like good quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Because it goes both ways, right? Because he could have those like otherworldly games, but then also have, I don't know.
I'm trying to think of who to even compare it to. Like, obviously, like I remember like Jeff Garcia being like this at times too. Or like Kurt Warner had inconsistent seasons. Where
that's true. Yeah, Kurt Warner's probably the guy.
But there's been a few guys like that, but he's kind of cut from the same cloth. But it's like he still brings it on the right night. I mean, this is another team. Like I don't know, who would you take right now Who would you take right now, Packers or Rams?
Good. Well, I mean, because the Packers beat the Rams badly, but the Rams didn't have Stafford, so I think I would
Mhm.
still probably lean Packers just because of how that went. But I don't know. Honestly, they feel like they're both, quality teams. I don't know. Why not both? Packers 6 seed, Rams 7 seed.
Yeah. So you're just taking Seattle and Minnesota out of it?
I think Seattle's schedule is so difficult. I think they have a chance, but like their schedule is really difficult. And Minnesota, I also think has a chance because of their record. But I just think those would be the two teams that I'd be. Well, I think Seattle is the better team out of those teams, but I think their schedule is tough. And so the other three, I think I'd be more interested in Green Bay and LA than Minnesota. With all due respect to the Vikings, but I like them too. I don't know. I'm fascinated by all those teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. You know, Vikings still have to play the Lions twice, so we'll see. But maybe it's the right time to play the Lions. So I don't know. Still a lot to be played for these guys. Obviously, a game separates it. I kind of like a little bit of what all of those teams are doing, except for the Saints, right? Like,
Yeah, I hear you. Let's move on. Okay, well, we got some blowouts to go through, so we can maybe even do a bit of a lightning round, perhaps, on some of these. Dolphins, Jets, Tim Boyle. I'll say this: it wasn't maybe Tim Boyle's best game.
this is the best game of his career, and he sucked.
Yeah,
Like, his
and he's going to start
QBR
next
was
week.
4.5. Like, it was funny. It was like because they had one first down at one point in like the third quarter, and then I watched him like complete 2 first downs in a row, and I'm like, oh, that's probably the best stretch of Tim Boyle's career. And like, not only that, like, I understand you're losing the game, so you have to throw more. In what ungodly world are you dropping Tim Boyle back? I'm trying to count this all up here because he got sacked 7 times too. Why is he dropping back to pass 45 times?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't care I don't care if they have no safeties deep, no corners deep. Give the ball to Brees Hall.
Yeah, like I understand you're losing the game, so you have to throw more, but you can't drop this guy back 45 times. You just can't. And honestly, if it wasn't for Tua trying to throw the ball to the other team, like this game would have been 50 to 3. Never mind 34-13. So, it wasn't really that convincing of a Dolphins win, but they won by 21 because they played a guy without a team without an NFL quarterback.
Do we have to do the Tua thing now? It feels like there's been too many games now where he's just like thrown like, I don't know. I feel like we've had this. You talk about inconsistencies. We all like Tua. We're all pro Tua. No one has ever said anything bad about Tua on this podcast. But like when we're talking about, again, it's comparisons, right? We're talking about him compared to Patrick Mahomes. We're talking about him compared to, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Baltimore Ravens. Like, against the Chiefs, the Dolphins had that game won, but there were mistakes. And it wasn't just Tua who made mistakes, but there were mistakes in that one. I guess maybe it's not Tua, more just the Dolphins in general, although it was Tua in this one. It's like you cut these mistakes out, you can win the Super Bowl, but they're not cutting the mistakes out, and we're, almost in December.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty interested to see how they play Dallas and Baltimore down the stretch. Look, I mean, I've obviously not. I don't think it's I'm not like Tua's biggest hater or anything like that. I don't want to come off that way.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
according
but like
to
at the same
Dolphins fans.
I don't know. Like, is it that wrong to say he's the same? He's a product of his environment. Like, is it really that controversial of a thing? Like,
I do think to some degree the environment is a product of him as well. Like, I think that he does nice things to run the offense. I just think if you're a game manager, you can't have can't have double digit interceptions, but like, again, someone brings up like Tua is no worse than Josh Allen when it comes to turnovers. Sure, but Josh Allen is bringing so much more to the table. I don't think Tua's been like bad at turnovers or anything. Again, I'm just talking about if we're putting him in the MVP discussion, if we're putting the Dolphins in Super Bowl contenders, my biggest concern with the Dolphins is mistakes. And it's not just from Tua, but you can't lose the turnover battle by a couple against Baltimore and win. I just don't think they can.
Yeah, I don't think they can either. And obviously the downfield passing stuff is legit. He's incredibly accurate downfield. The quick passing stuff is legit. He has an incredibly quick release. But I think all of this works because he has number 10 on his team who gets open so darn quickly and creates all this space downfield. He does all of this, I think, to such a high degree that it makes the job for the quarterback a lot easier. Tua is also good at this stuff, but it magnifies his strengths a lot more than I think what they are. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I want to be clear. I like Tua. Like, I'm not like I'm not saying like Tua is the problem with the Dolphins or anything. Just that okay, get this out of your system. Don't do it again. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I just like judge the Dolphins for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I would say they're not a Super Bowl contender. But I think they're capable of winning a Super Bowl. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Luckily, playing the Commanders, so they're going to win by 1 million. Just like the Cowboys won by 1 million against the Commanders. DaRon Bland with his 5th pick 6 already. He got on Thanksgiving. I mean, it wasn't even. We still got plenty of time left. As Washington, I mean, this is a disaster. They fired their defensive coordinator. Ron Rivera is 100% fired after this season. They're just letting him hang around, I guess. I mean, this is, Dallas continues to do this to teams. They play bad teams. They're dominant. Ron Rivera, I mean, what was it? 4th and 2 at the Cowboys 40 and they punt the ball away. Like, he should have been fired in the middle of the game right then.
Yeah. I feel bad. It's such a bizarre career too. Like, he has a losing record. He's coached all of these years, but it's like he has those 2 really awesome Cam Newton years where they went 15-1 and 14-2, and that's basically it. I don't know. It's been a lot of mediocre seasons mixed in there. I mean, this game was so bizarre because I'm just watching this in a food coma. First of all, because I had eaten by the time halftime came around, and it was 20-10, and I'm just like, Dallas is killing this team. Why is it 20-10? Dallas has 10 yards per pass. It seems like every time they're throwing the ball, it's a big play downfield. And then Washington's offense is kind of just chipping away, doing their thing, and making this ball game. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates break open in the 4th quarter. Everything opens up, and the pick 6. Dallas starts dominating. And, I mean, this was a really impressive performance. You can say, well, Dallas against a bad team, yada, yada, yada. I mean, the record is what it is. I mean, obviously, they have not had a impressive win resume-wise. But, I mean, this performance is as impressive as it gets. I mean, going through it right now, Dak Prescott, 22-32, 331, 4 touchdowns, 10.3 yards per attempt. It doesn't get much better than that. Tony Pollard, 6 yards per carry, touchdown. Brandon Cook, CeeDee Lamb. All these guys are impactful in this game. Like you said, DaRon Bland with the pick 6. Stephon Gilmore, I thought, had a phenomenal game taking on Terry McLaurin in this one. Really, until the 4th quarter, I thought pretty much shut him down. All of these guys from top to bottom, it's every guy, it seemed like, had an impactful game. And it seemed like every guy on Dallas' side was more impressive than the guy on Washington's side in this game.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. In Dallas, I'm fascinated with Dallas because so Prescott is in the MVP discussion, and I don't even hate that, honestly. I think that he kind of it's fair. Someone asked me what has Prescott done differently this year. A family member at Thanksgiving asked me that, and I was kind of I was thinking about it because I hadn't really just thought about that, and I do kind of think a big part of it is they played a lot of easier games this year. I don't want to completely discredit him getting what he's done, but that is a part of it, right? They've had a very easy schedule. But now it's a real test. I mean, these next 5 games, Seattle, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Miami, and Detroit. I mean, those are 5 good teams, 5, potential playoff teams that they're going to play in a row. So we'll really figure out who they are in that stretch.
Yeah, I mean, they this is kind of the same thing we were saying about the Eagles last year, where the record was good, but it was who have you beaten? And that was the question all the way until they made the Super Bowl, right? So as long as you keep winning, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, obviously the San Francisco game is a huge blip on the radar. That was a ugly game. But the Cardinals game was weird. That was just kind of dumb. And then they battled with the Eagles until the very last play. So, I do think they're capable of beating anybody, but we'll see how they look down the stretch. Like you said, this is a tough stretch, and I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup with all these teams, but they're checking every box right now, and you have to give them the credit for that.
Yeah, they play Seattle on Thursday. That'll be an interesting team because the Seahawks, coming off of a loss to the Niners, rough Thanksgiving slate. I mean, this was a bummer of a Thanksgiving slate, quite frankly. It wasn't the best week, I thought, in general in terms of close games. There was a couple of great ones, but the 49ers are really good, and this Seattle team, it's like, listen. 49ers are kind of doing this to everybody, so I don't know how much I want to get on Seattle for it. At the same time, though, it's like they're going to have to beat a team that's been doing this to everybody, right? They play, the Niners again. They play the Cowboys, as I just mentioned, and they play the Eagles. Those are the next 3 games. Not in that order, but those are the next 3 games. Like, they're going to have to find a way to at least win one of those games, I think. And, as of right now, it's a disappointing loss to not even really be competitive here.
Yeah. I thought the offense looked particularly rough. They didn't cover well either. It's like such a blur at this point between Thanksgiving and now. Tariq Woolen got benched in this game, right?
Did he? Yeah, I don't know. I missed the game live, so I watched it after the fact. I didn't have commentary on, so if he did, I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, like Michael Jackson was playing in this game a lot more, it felt like at times. I mean, I just don't know. Like, the offense did not look good in this game. They look outclassed, and this looked like 2 distinctly different tiers of opponents, and that's probably not the position you want to be if you're Seattle right now.
Yeah, because we were talking about Seattle as maybe a dark horse, like Super Bowl team, like and during the year. That's really what we were talking about. They just haven't. They're clearly not that. But I mean, again,
they're not that. Yeah,
they're maybe a playoff team.
Well, they're going to have to prove it down the stretch because, like you said, of those teams competing for a playoff spot, they probably have the toughest schedule.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they should beat the Titans and the Cardinals, but even then, like, I don't think those are guaranteed wins. Like, I just don't. Like, with Kyler Murray back, Kyler Murray is going to be fully back by week 18. And, the Titans are still kind of a pain in the butt to play at times. So, like, I wouldn't be shocked if this is a no for a stretch to end the year, just as much as I wouldn't be shocked if they pull off a couple upsets here, if they put it all together. But we haven't seen Seattle put all together since week 2. And I don't know if that team's even there anymore.
Yeah. It's such fascinating stuff here with San Francisco. Christian McCaffrey, is he offensive player of the year at this point? Or I guess it's between him and
I think it's Tyreek.
Yeah, Tyreek. Yeah, I think especially if he gets 2,000 yards.
He's going to hit 2K, yeah. I think
you're probably right.
Tyreek. So,
which is crazy.
I think McCaffrey is fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, talked over you, but I think McCaffrey's also scheduled for over 2,000 scrimmage yards, on pace for over 2,000 scrimmage yards, and he has 11 touchdowns, and he's not even a favorite.
Yeah, it's crazy to look back. Like, usually when you trade the high draft pick for the running back, it usually, like, historically you look back on it and say, "Oh, that's a bad trade." Mm-hmm. Like, this looks like a great trade. Like, this looks fantastic for San Francisco. He has been everything they wanted for this team. And he has just completely dominated since he showed up there.
He's got 939 rushing yards already. He's going to get 1,000 yards next week, probably.
Yeah. So, really good season for McCaffrey. I mean, is he back to being the best running back in football?
I think it's probably for the first time, right? Because Derrick Henry's kind of taken a step back at this point. I think it's probably the first season you would say that.
I mean, there was definitely a year or two there where he was really dominating Carolina.
But, yeah, maybe. Yeah, you might be. You're right. I think there was that one. He had like 15 rushing touchdowns in 2019. Yeah. There was probably a year or two, but I would say he's the best in football.
Yeah. I mean, he's impactful. He really is. And this 49ers offense seemed to have fixed itself. Purdy's played really well the last 3 weeks too. This is a dangerous team when they play like this.
Yeah. Let's move on. Chiefs Raiders. For a minute, this looked rough, right? For a minute, it's like, wow, are the Chiefs about to lose to the Raiders? Got up 14-0. And it feels like we haven't had these games too often where one team gets up, the bad team gets up 14. I don't want to say bad team, but the underdog gets up early, but then kind of falls apart as the game goes along. That is what happened here, though, as the Chiefs struggled a little bit offensively, but found something and really were able to go off in this one. Kelsey made some big plays. Rashee Rice 107 yards. Aiden O'Connell actually thought played pretty well in this one, but it was not enough to beat a good Chiefs team who, while they're not perfect as well, they feel a lot more beatable than they did last season. They're still, maybe the favorites to win the Super Bowl at this point.
Yeah, maybe they're the favorites for me to win the NFC. I think right
NFC?
now, AFC. Sorry, wow,
Okay.
long night.
No, you're good.
I still think I would take the 3 teams in the NFC over any team in the AFC right now. But if they're able to play like this, it's hard not to pick them. So, I still believe in KC. I believe in the infrastructure. Patrick Mahomes was brilliant in this game. So you believe in all that. And you said they found something, and that something was Rashee Rice. Like you said, 8 catches, 107 yards, touchdown in this game. He kind of sparked this offense, which, the receiver situation is what it is at this point. Like, they're just not going to have a lot of production out of that group. They just aren't. So, if Rice can be at least that second guy to Kelsey, it presents a few more options to them, and that makes them a little more potent. So that's basically what you have to hope for. So, good win for them. The Raiders, those first 3 drives I thought looked really awesome. Like, they came out of the gates with the game plan, a game script, and the game script absolutely worked to perfection. They got the touchdown. They missed the field goal. They got the touchdown on that 2-play drive. Big play for Jacobs there. But after that, did they even get over? They had the field goal drive, but like outside of that, it just wasn't really anything.
Yeah. It was, and we got to talk about the Antonio Pierce thing, which seemed like people are really ready to say, "Hey, Antonio Pierce, he's our guy." We just wanted a Rich Bisaccia thing. You can just hire Rich Bisaccia. You don't have to, do this. He had a weird end of the half game management. In fact, one of the weirder ones I've ever seen. So to set the stage, there was a minute left. The Chiefs had a 2nd down and goal, and the Raiders had a timeout. So the Chiefs run the football, and the Raiders elect to not take a timeout, letting the Chiefs run 40 seconds off the clock before the Chiefs score a touchdown, which then gave the Raiders only like 19 seconds left. You assume, okay, if you let 40 seconds run out the clock, you're going to just kneel down at that point. And the Chiefs had timeout, so it's not like you would have affected them by not calling your timeout. Then they decided to still have Aiden O'Connell throw the football with 19 seconds left in a timeout. And then they ran the ball. They got 10 yards, didn't call a timeout, and let the clock run out and went to the half. So weird game management there by our guy, Antonio Pierce.
Yeah. Young coach, no head coaching experience. He's learning. Maybe he learns from this situation and looks back at that and says, why did I do that? I think it would have been completely justified. He said, let's just get into the half after, scoring 14 points and being tied with the Chiefs. Now, you say like, well, you don't want to leave any seconds on the clock against the Chiefs. You want to go for it as much as you can. I don't know. Like, that would have been justified, but obviously coming out to throw it after that fact was weird. And then also running for 10 yards after throwing and then deciding not to try again. I don't know. It was all weird, but, maybe he's just learning about it. There's still things to like, I think, about Antonio Pierce, but I don't know if he's a future head coach.
Yeah, but he might be a future coordinator. Or might be, I think that, definitely the Raiders have looked significantly better with him out there. So I just think that, I don't know. Hey, just hire a guy to be your game management specialist. Hire a guy to be a clock management specialist. Get someone who plays Madden a lot. Like, I'm sure there's 14-year-old kids out there who can, run the clock way better than NFL coaches. So like, get one of them on the roster.
I don't know if they're allowed to hire children. We have to look into that. But
yeah, I think they might need like extra breaks, right? For like child labor laws, you have to make sure you give them like they would like in the middle of like the 3rd quarter, they have to go take a 15-minute break.
Can you imagine like during like a 2-minute drill, like kids in the bathroom? Sorry. Our game management coordinator is going to the bathroom right now.
Yeah, he's eating a bag of Cheetos he got in the break room. We gotta wait that out. Yeah, I think so. Good win for the Chiefs. Let's move on. Panthers Titans. Kyle, I know you have a lot to say about this one.
I had this game on a whole lot, and like I wish I didn't.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad that you were keeping a close eye on it. I watched a bit of it, but yeah. What were your thoughts?
I don't know. Like, I watched both of these quarterbacks, and I both of these quarterbacks have signs of life. I would say
Yeah.
that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think both of these guys have earned the opportunity to start for these teams next season.
Okay.
I don't know how long it's going to last for either of them, but I at least am interested enough to say let's give them both another year. That's my opinion from this game.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, Bryce Young, I don't care if he looked like the worst quarterback in football. Like, he's getting another year because, like, that's just what it is. But I get what you're saying. You know, if in theory he was a second round pick too, yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think Will Levis might. I think he could. I think as of right now, if the rest of the season gets canceled, he gets another year. I think he could still lose it though.
Yeah, he could definitely play his way out of it. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like even if as I justify saying you can bring back Will Levis next year,
Mm-hmm.
you better have a plan for. You better have a backup plan too, because I don't think it's a surefire thing. But I think there's at least enough tools there and enough like plays that he's shown. There's enough tape I feel like to say I'm interested enough for next season, because nothing about this season matters for either of these teams anymore, right? Like it's over. Both of these teams are over. Panthers in a big way, it's over.
Carolina, you're 4 games out. I mean, I'm just saying, go on a run here. It's possible. Yeah. If the Panthers win out, and end up 7-10, there's a shot.
There is a shot. Not a good shot, but a shot. I agree.
It's weirdly more possible than it should be.
That is more of an NFC South problem than a Carolina Panthers problem. But I mean, look, here's the thing. Like Frank Reich is going to be a one and done coach. I feel like at this point, like it's just not working. And whoever comes into this situation, has to figure out how they're going to get the best out of Bryce. And it's going to start with receiver position, which is going to be hard because you don't have your first round pick. Although there are a lot of good receivers in this draft, I would say. I think you're going to be able to get a good one at 33 if you end up with the worst pick. If they have do they have their second round pick? I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're going to be able to get a good receiver at 33 if they want it. But it's going to start there, and they got to try and maximize the situation because, I mean, we've been saying it all year. There's just not enough here. There's not enough to get excited.
Yeah, there are some interesting free agents on the board. You have T. Higgins, you have Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd. Like there's a good amount of, again, a lot of these guys don't end up hitting the open market, but maybe a trade is available, right? Like that would be interesting. I think they should go out and get somebody. Kendrick Bourne, like there's guys.
Yeah, there are certainly options there. They need a few guys. Not that one, but try somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. That's what they need to do. Titans, I don't know. They're two teams that are hoping to build for the future. Yeah.
Just a very weird Titans season. Like, when's the last time we've said Tennessee has been like completely irrelevant?
Yeah, because
it's weird to say. They're annoying, but like they're not irrelevant.
Right. They've definitely been. There's been times when we wished they were irrelevant. Right. Like there's been times where like, can we get the Titans, especially like some of those Mariota years? It's like let's stop it. But no, I am interested. Was the last time when they drafted Mariota?
Probably, yeah, because they were the number 2 pick that year. And I think there were some post Steve McNair years that obviously weren't good, but I think outside of that, yeah, I mean this franchise, at least since like the early 2000s, has always been at least pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, so they've won at least 9 games every year, with the exception of last season. But last season they were, if they won the last game of the year, they would have been in a playoff spot. Dobbs magic didn't happen in that game. But yes, they've won at least. They've been in it for every week since 2015. That was when they drafted. I believe that was actually Mariota's first year. 2014, they went 2-14. And then, prior to that, they were like, again, mediocre for a while. Yeah, they've been the definition of mediocrity a lot.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. We'll see what happens with that, but obviously this is a big rebuilding project, so we'll see how it looks in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think these are two teams that need to focus on. I think Panthers do whatever you can
Focus
do to
on you.
build up for Bryce. What's that?
It's not about me. It's about you. Focus on yourself.
What are you saying? What do you mean?
The Titans, both of these teams, they got to work
Okay.
on themselves. That's why, it's like the excuses you get in a breakup.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I think so. All right, Kyle, that is our show. Despite some technical difficulties, fun show regardless.
Yeah, lots to talk about. Like you said, not a lot of great games in this one, but there were some really good ones at the top, and a lot to talk about. Season's winding down.
Yeah. So again, thank you to everybody for watching here at nearly 1:30 on the East Coast. Kyle, let them know where they can find us. Let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page that is at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast, and it should be available there. Again, thanks to everybody. We appreciate, especially all of you who are hanging out during Team Black Screen. We appreciate all of you.
Yeah, thank you all for coming out and staying up with us so late. So it was fun.
Yeah, again, thanks again. Until next time, have a good one.
Peace.